to go up and over Brockway Mountain Drive. So here we go. This is the entry to Brockway Mountain Drive, just outside of Copper Harbor, Michigan. Unfortunately, this road, my friends, is not that good. So we'll do what we can to not damage the car, but this drive right here is one of the most scenic drives in Michigan, and even listed often in among the most scenic drives in America. You'll see why in a moment, but I got to get up around this curve here, and hopefully I won't starve the engine of oil. Yeah, we're doing okay, I think. And on a bicycle, this hill is a grinder, as we call it. It is a very, very steep hill, and we've already gained quite a bit of elevation. And if you're on a bicycle, you get here and you go, hey, wasn't that bad? Then you realize, oh, it's continuing up more. And a little more. And here you go. First chance you get to give your quads a break as you're pedaling up this hill. This road here, I can't imagine them making a road like this these days. This road was laid back, I'm sure, quite a while ago. There is a little scenic turnout here, but I'm not going to stop there for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is that I'm not sure I can turn around in there very carefully. So I'm just going to continue up. And yes, I said that's continue up. That's what we're doing. It is a very steep hill. I've done this on a mountain bike many, many times, going both directions. And the interesting thing about Brockway Mountain Drive is that it is about a 10-mile drive from one end to the other. And one side is really steep. It's about a 3-mile uphill coming from the Copper Harbor side. And if you go down the other side, it's about a 7-mile drop-off. Now, of course, you could come from that direction. It'll be 7 miles up and 3 miles down, take your pick. And some people choose to do it this way. You can walk your bike up the hard parts. Why not, you know? But if you're on a bicycle, there's a really, really cool spot here where you can stop and rest your legs and sit down on one of these little embankments there. But we are just right now working our way up. But like I said, this is Michigan pavement, so it's kind of rough. I gotta be careful here. So, in fact, I'm gonna turn the air off. Not sure that makes a difference or not. I can tell you that at the top of Brockway Mountain Drive, there's a little scenic turnout. I will pull a loop through there so we can get a good view. You can see off in all directions, of course, because this is one of the highest points in the area. There used to be a gift shop at the top, owned by some friends of mine, and I came by a year or two ago and it was gone. Just, vanished. And I ran into him in town and said, hey, what happened to the gift shop? And they said, you know, the state of Michigan came along one day and said, hey, we kind of are thinking that we could just turn that whole spot up there into like a scenic overlook, and we'd like to buy the gift shop and the property from you to do that. He said, you know, okay. So they bought it, and the shop disappeared. So it's kind of bizarre, you know, you're so used to seeing something over the years. And I mean, I remember coming up here many, many years ago. There's always a gift shop at the top. And there are mountain biking trails that go off the sides here. And my friend Sam at Cunard Adventure Company helped with getting the permissions from all the various landowners and all the different stakeholders up here, and got permission to put the trails in. And then he runs a shuttle service. So you can buy a pass and take a shuttle from downtown Copper Harbor up to any one of these trail launches you want to get to. And then you can just jump on your bike and down the side of the hill. And the cool thing about it is it's not just trails. They've actually got some woodwork in there, nice carpentry, making the trails a little more spectacular. They've got some jumps in there. They've got some very, very advanced stuff also. It depends on what level you're riding at. But I can tell you that they have done such a good job with it that, by the way, steep hill up is an understatement. If you're on a bicycle, you notice that. But he has done such a good job at getting the word out about these trails and making the trails as good as they are, that this is now a destination where people from all around the country on mountain bikes will come here just to ride these trails. And the various mountain biking associations that have looked at the trails and examined them have said, yes, these trails are world-class trails. So they do have, mountain biking festivals and races and contests and stuff out here, but it's also just something that's whenever there's riding weather, people come out here to ride those trails. So it's a pretty cool thing, My brothers and I started mountain biking out here and riding our bikes around the area around 1990. So we're talking, quite a while ago, 30 years ago. And at the time we were doing that, there were other people riding mountain bikes up here, but we're mainly riding on the logging trails and stuff. And it's gone from that into being this, mountain biking destination. So it's pretty cool. It's very, very cool. So, like I said, this road's kind of rough. I feel kind of bad driving on it. But the other thing is, you'll notice, I haven't seen anywhere I can point them out to you, but occasionally you'll see grooves cut into the road. And some of that is caused by the fact that I believe in the winter time, sometimes this road is closed to vehicular traffic, but it's open to snowmobile traffic. And every now and then, I think there are times when the road's not completely covered with snow and some guys hit it with their snowmobiles. But that's just a theory I'm working on. So, just watching all my gauges here. This thing will run all day long on the freeway at 80 miles an hour, but I'm not sure how crazy it is about climbing these hills. It's better to be paranoid and safe than other. So, it's also pretty neat because Brockway Mountain being such a prominent high spot at the tip of the peninsula, believe it or not, is apparently a waypoint that birds use as they migrate. And different times of the year, different migratory birds pass over Brockway Mountain. And so you'll often see little sheds set up here for bird observers. And they will actually sit there with binoculars and notebooks and keep track of what passes by. And so it's interesting, to see all that kind of activity. You don't think about. Again, another steep hill. And you keep thinking we're getting close, right? Not quite. Got a little more way to go. But the view's changing. You can see off in the distance, different hills. Off in the distance, one of those mountains is Mount Houghton, named after my buddy Douglas Houghton, who I wrote the book after. He spent a lot of time in Copper Harbor during his lifetime. And she is a braver soul than me. One thing I've never done is I've never run over Brockway Mountain Drive. Douglas Houghton spent a lot of time in Copper Harbor. He passed away in 1845, so before he passed away, there's obviously no road up here. But the interesting thing is that in his journals and other journals of people who traveled with him, they talked about being in Copper Harbor and hiking over and climbing the mountain behind Copper Harbor, which is obviously Brockway Mountain. Brockway Mountain is named later, but him and his men actually climbed up and looked down on the harbor itself. So Copper Harbor is both the harbor and the town there. Copper Harbor is formed by two points that come out, and there's a lighthouse on one side, and then Hunter's Point is on the other side. And then there's an island out in the middle there. So it's a very, very good little harbor to seek shelter in. And people who are traveling Lake Superior came across from Sault Ste. Marie would come across and get around the tip of the Keweenaw Peninsula, and then they would duck into Copper Harbor, and that'd be the safest place to be. So here is the top of Brockway Mountain Drive, and off in the distance you'll see Lake Superior. That way is north. The car right now is facing kind of west, southwest. There's a couple little lakes off there in the distance, and there is a trail that goes down off that little bluff there, a little weather station over there. This is a very, very steep drop off behind these little walls here. You can step over there and look down, which you can't really do from the car. Yeah, I'm sure you understand. And there is a little creek down there that forms a little valley that flows over towards, I think, Lake Fanny Ho. So that's how that works. And then right here is where the gift shop used to be to my left. And it's gone now, so we have a clean view. And then to go back to Copper Harbor, I'd go straight. To head to Eagle Harbor, I'd turn left. And so, like I said, it's 3 miles that way, 7 miles that way. And now this is a much more gradual downhill. And I'm in neutral right now, just to let you know. And on a bicycle, if you start pedaling right about here and put it in a high gear, which you can do pretty quickly, you will very quickly come to a spot in the road right about here which you can't pedal any faster. You've reached terminal velocity on your bicycle. And you tuck your arms in and you duck down for aerodynamics. And you just hold on. And I'm not going to go too fast down this stretch because I'm worried about scraping the nose of the car. But on a bicycle through here, again, 50 miles an hour all day long. Very, very easy to do. The problem is there's a hard, sharp right turn coming up right here, and there's cars coming the other direction, and you'll see that the road pavement is not that smooth. And I've come through there before, praying that no cars coming the other direction on the wrong side of the road. And since I'm here to tell you the story, obviously it never happened. So. But like I said before, I'm simply coasting right now, and we're doing 50 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour. So, and there we go, fun road ahead. So right now we're using up all the stored energy we had from going up the steep side of Brockway Mountain. And that's the fascinating part, is it's not all downhill from the top. There's actually some steep uphills. And likewise the other way. There's a couple really, really steep downhills and you gotta go back up again for a second. So, cool thing though is a lot of the land on Brockway Mountain here is owned by or operated by the Michigan Nature Association. And they are very, very good stewards of the land. They will put signage up, they will preserve it, they'll put walking paths in, they'll mark it, and they'll let people know that it's there and you can enjoy it. And there's a lot of that land up here in this area. If you like hiking out in the woods, for instance, there's another place called the Estevant Pines, but I couldn't take you there in the Viper. You got to get there the four-wheel drive vehicle or something with more ground clearance. And it's just a few miles outside of Copper Harbor, but it's a great place because it's an old-growth virgin forest. It's the forest that has not been touched by chainsaws ever. And there are white pines there that are hundreds and hundreds of years old. And so there are trees there that were untouched when Houghton and his men were here in the 1830s and 1840s that are still here. And so you can go out and walk among them, and it's just a very, very cool experience to encounter a tree that's so big that two guys putting their arms around it can barely touch their fingers on both sides. You know, more than 12 feet around. And that's pretty impressive. And virgin forest like that does not exist in Michigan anywhere else except for a small portion of the Hartwick Pines in the Lower Peninsula, because Michigan got logged over several times. And so, you know, you're driving along and you see what looks like older forest actually got logged over 100 years ago and it just grew back. So, you know, the trees aren't over 100 years old, but to find the stuff that's 300 or 400 years old is pretty cool. So the Estevant Pines outside of Copper Harbor is one of those places I highly recommend if you can get up here and have the time to go do it. It's one of the things, if I'm in town and I've got a vehicle to make it out there, I will do that at least once. And there are 2 loops that are extremely well marked, and I think it's like 3/4 of a mile around each loop. So if you do the whole big loop, it's 1.5 miles. If you run on a steam, 3/4 of a mile, no big deal. Short walk, like I said, it's well marked. There's even, restrooms, the primitive type, but you do state parks, you know what I'm talking about. So it's a very, very cool thing. It's free. Can't knock that. And, I know people complain about the cost of entertaining and cost of traveling. And something? Get here. Brockway Mountain Drive is free. The Escont Pines are free. The coastline, which I'm going to do in a few minutes, is also free. So don't complain to me about cost. You got to get here. You got to get here. But the cost is not a problem. Okay? So I've been biking along here and seen deer across the road in front of me. I've seen foxes run across the road in front of me. I've had a bear or 2, not up here, but a little further south. But I've seen bears out in the woods here too, and it's always nice. Even if they're not visible today, they're around. And I think I'm a little bit too early, but this part of the state's got thimbleberries. And thimbleberries are these little berries, not little, they're big berries, but think of a raspberry but 10 times the size, and a slightly sweeter, smoother taste than a raspberry. And if you spot them by the roadside, there's some thimbleberry bushes right there. The leaves are about this big, and the thimbleberries are so big that if you see a patch, you can stop and eat them, and they'll fill you up. And there's guys up here who make thimbleberry jam. I'll drive by their place. I'm not sure it'll be open right now, but we'll check out the jam pot. The jam pot's run by some monks, believe it or not, who decided that they wanted to get away from it all by moving to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and to keep themselves busy, but in a quiet, peaceful manner, they do it by picking thimbleberries and making thimbleberry jam. And they've been here forever, and they're one of the most beloved things up here. People will tell you, if you ever drive the north coast of the Keweenaw Peninsula, be sure to stop by, get some jam from the monks. And they're right next to Jacobs Falls, which is something I shot a video about not too long ago. Yeah, this road's kind of rough. Kind of a disappointment after going through the tunnel of trees earlier, which had such nice smooth roads, But on a mountain bike, I guess I never noticed how bad it was. Brockway Mountain Drive in the west end, you have a choice. You can go east, or hang a right and back towards Copper Harbor. Takes you along the shore. You'll pass by the Devil's Wash Tub and a roadside park, which is a very, very nice roadside park. It's actually one of those pumps you can get fresh water out of the ground at. And if you turn left, you go by, I think it's the Silver River, and there's some falls, some waterfalls there, and a little turnout where you pull out the park and get out and wade around. You see a lot of kids hanging out there, and a lot of families will stop there and let the kids play in the water. Like most of the rivers up here, the water is crystal clear and icy cold. Some of the rivers up here have got tannins in them, which turn the water like root beer, but but that's not one of the rivers. So, and then as you head down the coast, you'll pass through Eagle Harbor and Eagle River. Eagle River is where Douglas Hope drowned in 1845 offshore. And here is the exit. I'm going to hang a right so I can go back and take the cameras off my car.